Hi, this is KD4Z. Thought I'd give you a quick showdown here of the latest progress on the PgTgBridge application, which I'm currently in beta testing right now. PgTgBridge is an emulation of the PgXL and TgXL, presenting the Elecraft amplifiers KPA1500 and or KPA500 with the tuner to the Flexradio as if they're actual Flex hardware. That turns on the user interface in the radio. I've got the metering turned on here for the PgXL and TgXL metering when they're operational. Normally when those units are on, you see these icons show up here in the user interface on the Maestro or the M model. And you can see now we have the amp in standby, and it's currently configured for the 1500 up on top. The exciter level is set for 100 watts. Notice when we go to operate on the amplifier, we're in operate here now, and the radio is now detuned to a preset value of 10. You can set that to anything you want, so automatic power control between operate and standby. Things you kind of expect to work. I'm going to do a tune carrier here, and you'll see some power generated. We get metering here now from the amplifier, and they show up here in the UI user interface. And the application is fairly rapid. So that functions as expected with the metering. Also, we can engage the tuner operation. I just did a bypass on the KPA1500's tuner. If I put it back into operate, we get a tune cycle. You can message set the tune just like you normally get with the TgXL. That is pretty much all you'll see here. I'm going to pause the video so I can show you a little more of the settings. There's a couple other things that come along with this application. There's metering that shows up. I may have to move the camera, but you can see in the bottom corner of the workstation that is running the controller. On the bottom, there are meters showing the same indicators. Let's get a little closer to that. Now that's currently only at 10 watts drive, so we're not seeing full power, but it will of course do that. PgTgBridge is implemented as a Windows service. It runs over here in the services list. You can see it here. But for user application control, there's a task tray application which is showing green as it's running. Here's the user interface for that. You can start and stop the process from here. You can get into the debug log viewer if you like, and all the settings are configured from here. The interesting thing about the PgTgBridge is it has a plug-in architecture. So at this point, built-in plugins are for the Elecraft 1500 and the KPA500 AT500 pair. You can select either one of those sets. And if you're a C# developer, you can look at an API document that I have, will publish actually, that allows you to write your own plugins for any other hardware that supports polling or CAT data, whatever. You get to write it, and if you write it to the interface, it'll show up in PgTg and operate the same way. So we can have extra plugins here for different kinds of hardware. Yes, the 1500 is not the only supported device. The 500 AT and KPA500, I'll put them in another video. It takes a minute or two to swap the situation around to show it, but I'll put another video up showing the same functionality occurs. Doesn't matter whether it's the 1500 or the 500. Take a look at a few more of the the options that you can configure. One of the interesting ones is that the KPA1500 can now be keyed PGT over Ethernet. So between that and PgTg sends the band data for the TX slice over to the amplifier. So you no longer have to have the 1500 sitting in the same room as your radio. You can put it anywhere where you have a network connection and your RF cable feed to it. It can be put out of the way so you don't have to listen to the fans. The PGT is done over the wire. The KPA500 may support that. We're working through some issues to see if that can be done in the firmware in that amplifier. Power control is on this screen. You get to choose what exciter level you want to drop to when the amplifier is set to operate. You can do that per band. Currently, when you go back to standby, you get one setting you can set it back to. That may change. Let's see. The radio is automatically detected by the broadcasts that the Flexradio does. If you have more than one radio on your network, you can bind it to a particular serial number and pick that one, so PgTg will only see that one radio. And the meter control settings here, that's for this pop-up meter screen. You don't need to use it, but if you want to. In the case of the 1500, you could probably just turn off the tuners because they're replicated data from the amplifier data. But you'd want to turn those on if you're using the KAT500 plugin. Then you'll get actual SWR readings from the tuner and a calculated power value from the tuner. They don't expose a power value through CAT data, but I can use the ADC values, and I've emulated power with it. So it shows a pretty realistic value, even though it's not available as a CAT polled option. That's pretty much it. This is still being actively developed, but it is in beta test, and it will be available pretty soon.